Here are Morty Smith's worst ever moments in Rick and Morty.
Wait, I'm a nice Rick.
10. Turning on Rick, when aliens invade the family.
Are you listening to me, you son of a parasite scum? We can either do this the easy way or the hard way.
It's hard enough to remember normal memories by ourselves, and then you have Rick and the Smith family who have to deal with fake memories implanted into their consciousness.
Is an alien parasite.
But I've known him my whole life.
Yes, alien parasites invade the Smith home in Season 2's Total Rickle with a rather odd predisposition. The parasites plant false happy memories in the family's minds, convincing them that the aliens are actually long-term friends and family members.
It's true. We really do get into some crazy situations as a family.
Cousin Nikki was a parasite?
6! Morty, there's supposed to be 6 of us.
As expected, this leads to a lot of confusion, which is exactly what the alien parasites wanted in the first place, having characters like Reverse Giraffe,
You know me, I'm Reverse Giraffe. I have a short neck and leg.
Mrs. Refrigerator,
Who's got a bad memory about Mrs. Refrigerator?
Everyone has bad memories of me.
or Jerry's secret lover was messed up already.
You and I are going to survive this.
Okay. Hey, we agreed. Never in the house.
But this soon led to Rick, Morty, Jerry, Beth, and Summer beginning to turn on each other as they struggled to recall who is real. In the midst of this chaos, Morty almost shoots Rick with a laser gun after his grandfather continues to angrily berate him.
We all remember you as a friend.
Well, I remember you as a whiny little piece of shit.
Now, to be fair, Rick was pretty much asking for it, so we have to give kudos to Morty for being able to handle the situation so well. But then again, he did almost kill his own grandfather, which is pretty messed up, especially for an adolescent boy. Thankfully, the duo survives the ordeal and continues to do awful things to each other throughout the series, wanting to leave Rick behind in prison.
But getting him back wouldn't make things better. And, we're not doing so bad.
We're miserable, Morty.
He bailed on you. He left you to rot in a world that he ruined.
It's one thing to hold back from killing your grandfather, and a whole other thing to intentionally leave him behind in prison after he actually sacrificed himself for the sake of the family.
Oh, that sounds cool. I can get what I want and you can say goodbye.
Fine.
In the finale of Season 2, we see Rick Sanchez finally handing himself over to the Galactic Federation, hoping to finally provide some peace and comfort to his family. This was, of course, revealed to be a highly convoluted ploy to get back at the Federation later on, but the gesture did seem genuine when the episode came out.
Who's stupid now?
Morty, we just got him back.
Now, Rick is by no means a good man, and many would say he deserved what he got, but out of everyone, you'd expect Morty to at least support the man who's taught him everything he knows about the universe and parallel dimensions. However, he decides to stop Summer from going on to save their granddad in the opening episode of Season 3. He does whatever he can to convince her that Rick deserves to be in prison as well.
I can't believe Rick did this.
These are the parts of Rick's adventures you don't get to see. Why? Why would you do that, backwoods savage moron?
So yeah, it's pretty messed up that someone would not want to rescue their own family from prison, even though it's already been established that Rick has saved Morty on multiple occasions before this.
Morty, where's your collar? I'll fix it.
I dropped it.
8. Morty just straight up murders a bunch of innocents.
Listen. You like that?
In the penultimate episode of Rick and Morty's second season, aptly titled Look Who's Purging Now, the pair find themselves on an alien planet which is gearing up for its annual purge, which is quite obviously a parody of the surprisingly successful film franchise. Rick is totally down to stick around for a while, but Morty, not so much.
Do most people wear masks when they purge?
I don't want to answer any more purge questions.
Unfortunately, they're given no choice when a seemingly innocent girl steals their spaceship right after Morty makes the stupid mistake of letting his hormones take over while blackmailing Rick into saving said girl.
Could we take our Trisha up in the ship and, just wait out the purge?
Oh, Morty, how could I refuse after all you've done to blackmail me?
She turns out to be not so innocent after all, and eventually the pair have to convince the owner of a nearby lighthouse to let them set up a beacon which will allow them to receive a pair of powered combat suits, which Summer launches from the living room of the Smiths' home. All of this is on the condition that Morty allows the guy to read him his screenplay. The lighthouse owner doesn't take Morty's gentle criticism well, and when Morty finally breaks down and admits he hated the damn screenplay, Lighthouse Guy insists that the duo leave and even attempts to deactivate their beacon. This causes Morty to snap and howl. He pushes the guy down the stairs, killing him and shocking the hell out of Rick, but that's just the beginning. When the powered Iron Man parody suits arrive, Morty takes to it a little too enthusiastically, and by the episode's final moments, he's straight up just going bananas on anyone and everyone in his vicinity, whether they present a threat or not. As the episode wraps up and Morty comes down from his rage high, Rick comforts him by saying that the candy bars they'd acquired earlier contained purginol, a compound he says was responsible for putting Morty in a purging state of mind. But the episode's last shot shows us the wrapper of the candy bar Morty had eaten, which reads, "Now purginol free." So in essence, Morty wasn't under the influence of anything, and he went totally psycho all on his own. Yikes. 7. Morty hands Summer's boyfriend a fate worse than death.
Ooh, looks like a 422.
Despite their often antagonistic relationship, Morty has been shown on several occasions to be quite protective of Summer, although that usually brings more harm than good. In the 5th episode of season 3, Rick goes on a rare adventure with Jerry upon Morty's insistence, mostly because Morty is keen to take a break from Rick's crazy space adventures. He stays behind at home, hoping to have a chilled out day, but that is far from the reality of this episode. While Rick and Jerry get tangled up in a plot to kill Rick at a resort where nobody can die, Summer, whose boyfriend Ethan has just broken up with her in favor of a slightly more, well-endowed girl, turns to her grandfather's tech for a solution after Beth fails to give her the validation she desperately needs.
What's wrong?
Mom, do you think I'm hot?
I don't think that's something that matters.
Unfortunately, rather than having the desired effect of enlarging her tatas, Rick's Morphizer XE simply blows Summer up to giant size, and it's not pretty. Beth, who refuses Morty's pleas to call Rick for help, attempts to reverse the effect by setting the machine to reverse. This of course simply turns Summer inside out, which is a horrifying sight in itself. Eventually, Beth uses the machine on herself in order to make peace with the giant, inside out Summer, who has tracked down Ethan and his new girlfriend to a campground. Summer, touched by Beth's gesture, is content to leave Ethan alone, but Morty is most certainly not.
You made my sister cry, Ethan.
Morty tells the kid, even making sure he knows how he messed with her body image. Ethan attempts to explain, but Morty cuts him off in shady fashion, ominously patting the Morphizer. The episode's post-credits sequence reveals that it was no idle threat either. Morty used the device to turn Ethan into a hideously misshapen monster, an act of retaliation which may have been just a bit disproportionate to Ethan's offense. Morty clearly had no right to do that, but then again, he is Rick's grandson and accomplice, so it makes sense. 6. Morty just straight up murders a bunch of innocents. In the season 4 opener, Morty's crush on Jessica once again endangers all of humanity, although at least this time he doesn't indirectly cause a Cronenberg-level disaster. It's actually a lot worse because he directly wreaks havoc in true Akira fashion, when Rick and Morty come into possession of some death crystals, which allow for them to see the many possible ways in which they might eventually die.
Jessica. I want to die with Jessica.
Morty discovers one possibility that he becomes obsessed with. As a matter of fact, he pushes his limits just to ensure this possibility will come to pass.
Dear God.
What could it be though? Well, Rick's grandson sees himself dying peacefully in bed with Jessica by his side, holding his hand.
Stop! You're gonna make me die wrong!
Wait a minute, what? Morty, do you have a death crystal in your pocket? No.
His efforts to make sure that this outcome is realized, of course, quickly get out of hand as Morty follows the guidance of the crystal to a dangerous degree. What begins as a confrontation with a school bully ends with Morty gaining access to Rick's arsenal and using it to brutally open up a can of whoop-ass on all who oppose him, including the police and military. Mind you, this is all in pursuit of that blissful end-of-life vision he had. Eventually captured and put on trial for his rampage, Morty is able to weasel out of any punishment by quoting the last words of the judge's dying husband.
He loves you, little sparrow.
He's innocent. Case dismissed.
Causing the judge to end herself after setting him free. After all of that death and destruction, the episode's post-credits scene reveals that Morty's vision was supremely misleading. It turns out that Jessica intends to become a hospice worker.
I want to work in hospice. I want to comfort the people who are dying.
And it was in this capacity that Morty saw her comforting him in his final moments. This just makes all of Morty's decisions and actions that much worse, doesn't it?
I'm gonna look at their name tags and I'm gonna say, I love you.
What the
5. Causing an extremely disturbing snake war. Morty really has a knack for bringing upon himself the worst kind of incidents, even though he's not doing it on purpose.
Staying in here where it's safe.
Despite trying his best to do a good deed, Morty's interference into an alien race of snakes results in him creating a time travel situation which clearly parodied the science fiction classic, The Terminator, more specifically, the 4th part. Once again, all of this could have been easily avoided had Morty simply focused on listening to Rick's instructions,
So get back in the car.
I'm not in danger. There's nothing out here.
rather than trying to mess around with a snake in a spacesuit. This not only leads to Morty getting poisoned, but he also ends up killing said space snake. What follows is the revelation of a highly concentrated network of intelligent snakes, numbered at around 19 billion. Also, these 19 billion snakes have lost all hope due to Morty's actions.
Can't be the reason why 19 billion snakes lost all hope.
That's right, Morty. That species was never getting beyond this stage.
Just a reminder that there are 8 billion humans on Earth, and yet Morty has managed to anger more than double that amount of snakes. As expected, the angry snakes came back to Morty's house and tried to kill him and his family in order to prevent him from changing their history,
Next time, stay in the car.
which in itself was pretty outlandish. And if this wasn't enough to entertain us all, Morty even takes Rick's help to trick the snakes into following a falsified new idol.
We're removing ourselves from this sloppy, fucked up story and letting snake time travel eat its own tail.
Essentially, they managed to trick an entire civilization of beings that were strong enough to take Earth hostage, as could be seen in the mega battle that would do Skynet proud. All in all, this was an incredibly violent situation that Morty created, and he never really considered the consequences of his actions. It's also one of the few times you actually feel like Rick has the moral high ground on his own grandson, which is a pretty ridiculous thing to say.
I can tell you're pretty upset about the whole snake encounter thing, so I'll tell you what. I'm just gonna go ahead and avoid you for the rest of the day.
4. Morty abandons Rick when he needed him the most. Rick is usually a household name when it comes to abandoning his family.
You guys hold tight.
And in Season 2, Episode 5, it definitely felt as if Morty was going to follow the same path, when an entire group of aliens known as the Cromulons appears with musical demands,
Show me what you got!
while also killing most of the famous musicians on the planet.
An earthquake and all the musicians, all the famous ones, they're gone.
Rick and Morty call on Ice-T to help them write a tune for an intergalactic song competition. However, Morty panics and steals Rick's portal device to save his family, although his motivations over here could also just mean cowardice. Ice-T reveals himself to be a jaded alien and leaves Rick alone in another WTF moment, so it leaves even more of an impact that Rick's own grandson abandoned him at such a crucial time. Unbeknownst to Morty, his family, along with Summer's boyfriend Ethan, get involved with a religious cult.
The head has left and sent its children.
Whose beliefs are based on their interpretation of the actions of the Cromulons. Morty gets lost and traverses several portal openings, eventually stumbling onto Bird Person's world.
Appear to be dying. I will make efforts to prevent this, but can promise nothing.
You could say this was instant karma, but luckily for him, Bird Person not only heals Morty, but also encourages him to have faith in Rick and sends him back to Earth. This gives us the all-important tune, Get Swifty.
Oh yeah, you gotta get swifty.
But let it be known that Morty was willing to let the entire planet get zapped out of existence just because he couldn't handle stage presence. Don't let any of his apparently moralistic excuses tell you otherwise.
Stop saying it like it's a thing. You made it up.
3. Literally trying to kill Rick out of sheer spite. Now, it's common knowledge that Rick's machinations can often push Morty right to the freaking brink. The guy is always 4 or 5 steps ahead of everyone else in the room.
Man, I told the moneybugs. I said, you know who this guy is, right?
Including his young companion, and we can only imagine how frustrating that must get for someone. After all, nobody likes to be told they're inferior.
You're right!
What? No, I'm not right!
Even if that may happen to be the truth. In a few instances, though, that frustration has boiled right the heck over for Morty, and never quite so dramatically as in the 3rd season opener, The Rick Shank Rickdemption. During the execution of Rick's incredibly complex plan to stick it to the Galactic Federation and also Jerry, he ends up wiping out the vast majority of the Interdimensional Council of Ricks, but the final alternate Rick, who is distinguished by his weird, pointy, and obviously evil hair, gets the drop on Rick and and Morty by holding Summer hostage. Rick expresses his willingness, his apparent eagerness, really to resolve the situation by simply allowing alternate Rick to kill Summer, thereby removing his bargaining chip.
To kill you, bro. That's not even my original Summer.
Oh my god, he's not bluffing. He's not bluffing.
However, Morty intervenes, holding his Rick at gunpoint with a gun that Rick had previously given him, telling him he'd need it later. This was genuinely in an attempt to somehow save his sister, but the intentions didn't match the outcome. When Rick hurls insults at Morty, implying that he's too dim to understand the ramifications of the situation.
Morty, I know you're too stupid to get this, but you're really f***ing this up right now.
With Summer and alternate Rick following suit, Morty freaks out and shoots his Rick in the head, apparently killing him while also blurting out a somewhat celebratory statement.
Who's stupid now?
Alternate Rick lets down his guard long enough for our Rick, who is decidedly not dead, to dispatch him, and Rick subsequently points out the note taped to Morty's gun, which reads, "Fake gun, shoot me in standoff." This may have been a genius plan by Rick, but Morty's nervous chuckle tells us all we need to know. There's no way he saw that note, and that shot was most definitely out of sheer spite.
Good thing I saw that note.
2. Making Rick make a love potion. The events of episode 6 in season 1 begin with an extremely questionable moral decision made by Morty, and to say that they spiral out of control from there would be a hilarious understatement. Morty pesters Rick into creating a potion which will cause his crush, Jessica, to fall hopelessly in love with him.
I love you so much it burns.
Oh man!
He administers said potion at the annual flu season dance, and boy, does it ever work. Of course, Rick fails to warn Morty that the potion is capable of piggybacking on the flu virus.
I didn't realize when I gave you that serum that Jessica had the flu.
And when the entire school, followed by the entire town, becomes enamored of Morty, Rick is forced to take drastic action. As wanton Morty love spreads across the entire world, apart from only his family members being left unaffected, Rick synthesizes an antidote which is made from the DNA of praying mantises, which are known to kill their mates. Of course, this only has the effect of mutating the entire populace into horrifying bug monsters.
What the hell?
And Rick's second attempt at an antidote, which is a ridiculous mishmash of the DNA of various animals, people, and dinosaurs, only goes on to
Cactus, shark, golden retriever, and just a smidge of dinosaur.
further mutate everyone into grotesque abominations, which he and Morty promptly dub as Cronenbergs.
You know, mixed a bunch of nonsense together and created a bunch of Cronenbergs?
Admitting that he's managed to push himself into an impossible spot, Rick breaks out an emergency solution, which is for him and Morty to simply abandon their home dimension, relocating to a different one in which the native version of the pair are killed in a lab accident. The only sensible thing for them to do from that point forward is to take the places of their counterparts. The profoundly messed up situation appears to break something in Morty,
We're dead! What is going on, Rick? I'm freaking out!
who really should have known better than to attempt to science somebody into falling in love with him. If you think about it, then none of this would have happened if Morty went the consensual way.
Fine. I should have just listened to you when you refused to make the serum.
1. Becoming Evil Morty. Now, just to be clear, Evil Morty has made multiple appearances throughout Rick and Morty, where he's done some really horrible things, but all of it gets explained in Season 7, Episode 5.
You know what? You're right.
When we actually get to see Evil Morty's origin story. In an extended flashback, Evil Morty's past is shown. This includes his initial betrayal of his Rick, his killing of multiple Ricks, and kidnapping of various Mortys, his efforts to escape the Central Finite Curve, his scheming efforts to become president of the Citadel, and his final escape. All of this was just the highlights reel, thus proving Evil Morty to be even more of a mess than Rick Prime.
Think you're better than me?
Jesus, I hope so.
In general, Evil Morty has an exceptional mind, which puts him at par with Rick's own intelligence, even being able to rival Rick Prime on certain occasions.
How's it feel? Better? No? Exactly the same? Yeah, it always does.
Of course, this also means that he is capable of a lot worse, because he doesn't have the emotional attachment that Rick Prime likes to deny all the time.
Really just said to be hurtful, but I also won't deny it. I was young.
Evil Morty is basically proof that Morty is better off as a dumb, thirsty teenager than a genius like his grandfather.
Seriously though? Don't come after me. It won't go well.
Do you agree with me on this? Let me know in the comments if you want to see another topic. Okay then, see you in the next one.